Sun cast a shadow, a digital line is coming over the mountain and over your mind. Double down your Bitcoin, hang on for the ride. We're moving into the future, one block at a time. We're moving into the future, one block at a time.
Welcome to Once Upon a Coin, documenting the ongoing history of blockchain and cryptocurrency. As always, I'm your storyteller, Jason Cassidy. Today's story looks at the birthplace of some of the biggest projects, innovations, and memes industry has ever seen. That's right, we're looking at what crypto was like before social media got involved. This is the story of the Bitcoin Talk Forum. And like any good story, we should probably start at the very beginning. In the early days of cryptocurrency, there was only Bitcoin and Satoshi Nakamoto, the pseudonymous developer behind the revolutionary technology. The very first postings about Bitcoin from Satoshi took place on the SourceForge forums back in late 2008 when the white paper was first released. However, interest in the digital currency grew so fast that the conversation had to be moved to a new venue, one that was better suited to support the needs of a growing audience. Enter the bitcointalk.org forum. Now, if you've used messaging boards and forums in the past, then at least visually, the Bitcoin Talk forum looks a lot like any other online watering hole where people come together to discuss their favorite topics. Where things differ here is the content that was being discussed, because on the Bitcoin Talk forum, there were some very real, very game-changing conversations that were taking place. Conversations that would end up impacting the direction of finance and technology in ways no one could imagine. Word quickly spread that this was the place to be if you were interested in Bitcoin. And before you knew it, the forum really began to take off with all kinds of conversations revolving around Satoshi's creation. For the very first time, Bitcoin users from across the world could connect and share ideas and experiences with each other. And no matter what you wanted to talk about, there was already a conversation started up somewhere that you could join in on. You want to talk about mining? We got mining for you. What about price speculation, crypto security, wallets, or even the day that Bitcoin would reach mainstream adoption? Check. Heck, even if you wanted to geek out and discuss the blockchain, you could strike up a conversation with Satoshi himself, at least for a while. Because on December 13th, 2010, Satoshi Nakamoto logged into Bitcoin Talk for the very last time, never to be seen again. And there weren't a whole lot of clues left behind as to why the disappearing act either. Satoshi was just here one day and then gone the next. Taking a look at their final forum post doesn't reveal any obvious motives either. No, it seemed that for whatever reason, Satoshi felt that this was the time to exit stage left and let their creation do the speaking for itself. Some debate exists here, with the alternative claim being that Satoshi never actually posted on Bitcoin Talk, and thus the posts that we see under the Satoshi account were actually imported from his SourceForge account. In any case, the only thing for certain was that Satoshi was gone and they weren't coming back. It didn't matter in the end, however, because the following that had formed around Bitcoin, thanks in large part to the forum itself, was now diverse and robust enough to continue on without the need for Satoshi at the helm. In fact, it could be argued that the creator's disappearance around this time only added to the mystery and intrigue around Bitcoin, helping spur more curiosity and community growth as a result.
The fact that Satoshi disappeared off Bitcoin Talk was not only a very smart thing for them to do, it also gave the Anon vibe back to the space. So a government didn't have an individual to pick on, similar to a Ross or a Vitalik, to back Bitcoin's network. It's better left where we don't know who they are. They aren't here to punish. If we knew who Satoshi was and something happened to them, that would drastically affect the entire ecosystem. And everyone in that ecosystem now can step up, and we are all Satoshi.
As time continued on, the forum kept growing in size and relevance. And by 2011, it was now the hands-down, undisputed king of the crypto jungle. Some of the biggest names in cryptocurrency history frequented the forum around this time. Names such as Andreas Antonopoulos, Adam Back, Roger Ver, and Gavin Andreessen all called the forum home at one point or another. With all these bright minds and curious onlookers joining forces to unlock the power of blockchain technology, then it should come as little surprise to learn that some pretty cool innovations began to spring up. The Bitcoin Talk forum may be the single biggest driving force behind the altcoin movement, as virtually every coin that came into existence after Bitcoin got its start on the forum. This era is when we began to see new entrants into the space, like Namecoin, Litecoin, Peercoin, Devcoin, Terracoin, and a whole host of others. The majority of the cryptocurrency world gained awareness of these new coins via the forum, and it soon became a trend that if you had created something new in crypto, you debuted it on the Bitcoin Talk forum. There were some cool new features coming out with altcoins. Peercoin introduced us to the proof of stake concept, while Namecoin proved to the industry that blockchain had more applicable use cases than just sending money back and forth. You could decentralize internet domain names via the .bit extension. But more importantly, the advent of the altcoin meant that if you had missed out on Bitcoin early on, you now had a second chance to make up for that missed opportunity by owning a healthy amount of the right altcoin before it went supernova.
The early days of the Bitcoin Talk forum were filled with excitement and curiosity as we were all gathering to learn as much as we could about this groundbreaking technology and all the possible use cases that it could be applied to. Fast forward into altcoins, and now we had a chance to take our Bitcoin and invest it into other projects such as Litecoin, Peercoin, and Namecoin. That took the buzz to a whole new level, and as investors, we had a first-time opportunity to then start investing our Bitcoin.
This is some of the earliest FOMO that I had ever personally witnessed, and it created some unreal scenarios. Everyone wanted to have the next altcoin because if it had the right mix of elements, maybe it could become the next Bitcoin. Hey, maybe it could even become bigger than Bitcoin. FOMO makes some people think and do some crazy, crazy things. Just how crazy? Well, try this on for size. In the early days, there just weren't many exchanges that supported altcoins, and for the ones that did, they weren't exactly known for listing new coins in a timely manner. Thus, if you wanted access to the next big thing in crypto, you had to acquire the new coin without the aid of an exchange. This led to people coming together on the Bitcoin Talk forum to basically create their own market. The setup looks something like this. For a small fee, a trusted community member would act as an escrow between buyers and sellers, using an Excel spreadsheet to track the transactions. This was the market. Once a deal was agreed upon, you'd send your Bitcoin to the third-party escrow, and if everything went well, you'd soon be receiving a heaping helping of the latest new altcoin on the scene. Both the amount of risk involved here and the level of trust required in this situation is hard to fathom given how far we've come today. Yet, back then, this is how the altcoin market functioned, and people basically accepted it for lack of any better available option.
I went down the crypto rabbit hole in 2011 after Wired shared an article about how Bitcoin had just gone to $30. And I was familiar with it from the year before at less than a penny. But there was very little understanding, very few people commenting on it. And one of the only places where there was information was the Bitcoin Talk forum. But yeah, that was a good way to get other people's perspectives, to identify trends and opportunities. And yeah, it was really the central place to learn about Bitcoins in the really early days. A lot of people were using anonymous third parties on the forum to trade Bitcoin or alternative currencies because largely of the fear of missing out. People that ended up brokering these trades, at least at scale, often had built up some level of reputation. And a lot of people had a really hard time in the early days getting exposure to any type of digital asset because either you had to deal with someone peer-to-peer that was probably not trusted, or you would need to put cash into an envelope and mail it to the other side of the world, a random PO box, which also was not very comfortable. So it was really difficult to find a way to get exposure to Bitcoin or early altcoins.
Having been part of this myself, I can tell you that the birth of the altcoin era was something that you really had to experience. Words just don't do it justice. And to be honest, for most people back then, altcoins were simply just another way to make more Bitcoin. But this all changed when in 2013, the blockchain landscape began to evolve, and once again, the Bitcoin Talk Forum was front and center for this transformation. This is when we started seeing more polished blockchain projects make their presence felt. Sure, there was still the low-effort Litecoin clones popping up if you wanted to play the altcoin casino, but if you were a serious investor, there are now options available that offered something uniquely different in the blockchain space. Heavy hitters like Ripple, Dogecoin, and Ethereum all began to establish themselves as legitimate alternatives to Bitcoin. And what do these three iconic blockchains all have in common? Well, they all got their start on the Bitcoin Talk Forum. This meant that if you were on the forum back in early 2014, you were likely introduced to Ethereum before 99.9999% of the world was. If you happened to like what you saw and invested some of your Bitcoin into it, you did spectacularly well, as the Ethereum ICO price came in at 31 cents US per Ether.
BitcoinTalk.org, I think, was one of the main drivers that got a lot of the Bitcoin community participating in the initial ETH ICO. And because of that, I believe you had a lot of the earliest adopters of crypto also getting into ETH. And so having those backers that early who understood the tech, who could help, who had a network to make things happen and start building ecosystems around that was key.
Speaking of ICOs, the forum can lay claim to some unique history as well, given that it's the location of the very first ICO that took place in 2013 when Mastercoin decided to launch its own decentralized crowdfunding campaign. Bitcoin Talk can even say it helped contribute to the crypto lexicon, as on more than one occasion it has produced some legendary moments and sayings that are now enshrined in blockchain lore. It's hard to say exactly when the forum hit its peak, but as someone who's spent a lot of time there over the years, I'd say it probably reached that point sometime around 2016, 2017. Social media had grown to provide the same value that the forum offered, and with people spending so much of their time already on Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit, it was just a natural progression for crypto to carve out its own niche there. Regardless of when exactly the torch was finally passed, the forum's time as the cheers of the crypto community has now come and gone. It's still going strong though to this day, and if you know where to look, you can find some very valuable information on there. The Bitcoin Talk Forum's impact on the early days of cryptocurrency is firmly entrenched in the history books. Its legacy intact and available online for all to read. In my opinion, the forum will always maintain some level of relevancy simply due to the impact it had on the blockchain space. And I truly do miss those days so long ago now when the crypto world was a much quieter place than it is today. There was just something magical about the place, and I consider myself lucky to have been a part of those early days now. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's stroll down memory lane. Until next time, stay safe and be well, my friends. I'll be back soon with another incredible story to tell you.